eyes are on the state capture inquiry to see whether the chairperson, Raymond Zondo, will indeed issue a warrant of arrest for former President Jacob Zuma. This after the former president walked out of the inquiry without permission. To help us unpack this is Advocate of the High Court, Romeo Nthambeleni, and political analyst Matlala Stlhalogile. A very good evening to both of you, gentlemen, and thank you for your time tonight. Let's start with you, Advocate. Is the former president truly in contravention of the Commissions Act of 1947?
Indeed. Good evening, Tammy and the viewers. Indeed, it's in contravention of the Commissions Act in that he left, as you have indicated, without leave from the chairperson of the commission himself. So we shouldn't forget that he was also summoned to appear. So the former president shouldn't have left without having been given consent by the chairperson of the commission, being Raymond Zondo.
Advocate, if you will remember, before the adjournment, before they went to recess rather, the advocate Skakane did say that they are going to take leave. He did actually say that they were going to leave. Does that give them permission to do so? Is that not a point that they can argue that they did in fact let the Deputy Chief Justice know that they will be excusing themselves?
Yeah, Natami, thanks for that. He didn't say that they would leave. He asked to be excused. And I think in law context is very much important. He knows the procedures relating to appearances in proceedings. He's a senior counsel. So asking to be excused for himself as a legal team is not the same with asking for permission for the witness to be excused. So I think we must clarify that type of a difference. If he was talking for himself, that is a completely different context altogether. But if we are talking about the witness having been to be excused, the witness was summoned to come by the chairperson himself, and he leaves the commission with the leave of the chairperson. And the former president was represented by a senior counsel who knows the ins and outs of the procedures that ought to be followed in proceedings of that nature.
Now, in the event that the Deputy Chief Justice does issue a warrant of arrest for the former president or charges the former president, what impact would that have politically, Mr. Stlhalogile?
Evening, Tammy, and thanks for having me. Look, I think it will be a very similar impact to what we have seen in 2007 when President Jacob Zuma was initially charged post the Polokwane conference. However, the political landscape has quite shifted a bit, in a sense that the momentum and the support that the president is likely to get would be much less compared to what we traditionally used to him having, the kind of support we used to him having. We have already seen it with the Ace Magashule saga, that the modus operandi will likely be the same. There won't be any deviation from the established norm in terms of the tactics employed.
Now, back to you, Advocate. We did hear the former President Zuma's attorney, Eric Mabuza, saying that it was already stated by Advocate Skakane that they are going to be taking this judgment on review. They'll be taking it to the Gauteng High Court. The fact that this already is on the table, is that also not another loophole? Can they not use that as the reason why they could not continue with the rest of the commission, because already they're taking this judgment on review?
Indeed, it's a good point that you make there, Tammy, but be that as it may, that should have been done with the leave of the chairperson of the commission, because one, we said, the former president was summoned to come and appear. Two, he just took off without leave. And then three, they were aware that if they were to bring any proceedings, the chairperson should have been aware that they want to actually review the proceedings, and that was not done. So for us, when you look at the nature of the commission itself, it undermines that entire process and the commission itself in terms of the procedural aspects of the commissions, which the procedural aspects are supposed to be followed the letter to the T, without having to compromise the integrity of the commission itself, because this has an impact on other witnesses, that ought to actually appear before the commission itself. And you can see that this apprehensive approach by the president has been adopted after there was amendments that were made into the terms of reference of the commissions in terms of the issue of saying that this information that is now currently being held before the commission is going to be shared with the law enforcement agencies. And then now you could see that the tune of the president started to change, and there was the issue of ducking and diving and not continuing with the evidence. If it's not that, if it's not submitting of affidavits, if it's not submitting of the evidence, is the recusal application, which was refused.
As we wrap up, Mrs. Stlhalogile, if you could perhaps talk to us about the political impact of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. We heard there the former president saying that only those who are anti-him have been called to give witness at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. How is it viewed? Is it viewed as a political tool to get back at the former president, or is it really viewed as an instrument of justice?
It really depends which side of the fence you are, Tammy, how you view the commission. Look, generally, there's an established pattern by the former president to evade all platforms of accountability. The Zondo Commission is nothing different in terms of how he approaches platforms of accountability. I think Advocate made a very solid point there when he says the actions of the former president are intended to undermine the integrity and credibility of the commission. His is not to actually afford us an opportunity to hear or see him account, but he's evading that. And in doing so, he's actually undermining the credibility and integrity of this commission to say that I do not have a problem with accounting, but I will not account into compromised platforms. This is what he's trying a picture he's trying to build. However, because he has been doing this consistently, President Zuma has a very well-established trend in terms of avoiding platforms of accountability. Firstly, it started with the Nkandla debacle in Parliament. He has been very evasive in Parliament until the courts told him to do so. Secondly is the courts. He has employed what has been commonly referred to as Stalingrad. Now is the issue of the commission. By the way, something that the former president, Thabo Mbeki, did without any hassle when he appeared at the Sereti Commission. President Jacob Zuma has a very interesting relationship with accountability. That is what it is. For his supporters, they are likely to buy into this narrative that it's a political ploy. State institutions are being utilized against President Zuma and his supporters or his allies in the political space. However, at some point, a genuine question has to be asked. Will President Zuma ever account? Remember, he was the most senior citizen and even the most senior public representative. He has to account for the decisions and actions he took through the powers conferred to him by the constitutional and legislative framework.
And I must say, Mr. Stlhalogile, those are the questions that remain to be answered. And we will see, we do remember that the commission adjourned on Friday and the rest of Thursday afternoon, but they will be back on Monday, and that's when we'll find out exactly what the Deputy Chief Justice has chosen to do regarding this issue. But I thank you both, gentlemen, for your time and your insight and input this afternoon. That's Advocate of the High Court, Mr. Romeo Nthambeleni, as well as political analyst, Mr. Matlala Stlhalogile.